Fans have chosen sides when it comes to Peeta and Gale, with a host of theories as to why she chose the one and not the other. But the answer may be simpler than you think. Welcome back to Alston Stories audiobook-style read-along and analysis. In the last video, we saw the tributes from District 12 take their mentor to task and bring him back to life. In this video, not only does Haymitch show he had the brains to win this game the first time around, but Katniss gets a very special type of education of her own.
Haymitch considers this a moment, then punches Peeta in the jaw, knocking him from his chair. When he turns back to reach for the spirits, I drive my knife into the table between his hand and the bottle, barely missing his fingers. I brace myself to deflect his hit, but it doesn't come. Instead, he sits back and squints at us. "Well, what's this?" says Haymitch. "Did I actually get a pair of fighters this year?" Peeta rises from the floor and scoops up a handful of ice from under the fruit tureen. He starts to raise it to the red mark on his jaw. "No," says Haymitch, stopping him. "Let the bruise show. The audience will think you've mixed it up with another tribute before you've even made it to the arena." "That's against the rules," says Peeta. "Only if they catch you. That bruise will say you fought. You weren't caught. Even better," says Haymitch. He turns to me. "Can you hit anything with that knife besides a table?" "The bow and arrow is my weapon, but I've spent a fair amount of time throwing knives as well. Sometimes if I've wounded an animal with an arrow, it's better to get a knife into it too, before I approach it." I realize that if I want Haymitch's attention, this is my moment to make an impression. I yank the knife out of the table, get a grip on the blade, and then throw it into the wall across the room. I was actually just hoping to get a good solid stick, but it lodges in the seam between two panels, making me look a lot better than I am. "Stand over here, both of you," says Haymitch, nodding to the middle of the room. We obey, and he circles us, prodding us like animals at times, checking our muscles, examining our faces. "Well, you're not entirely hopeless. Seem fit, and once the stylists get hold of you, you'll be attractive enough." Peeta and I don't question this. The Hunger Games aren't a beauty contest, but the best-looking tributes always seem to pull more sponsors. "All right, I'll make a deal with you. You don't interfere with my drinking, and I'll stay sober enough to help you," says Haymitch. "But you have to do exactly what I say." It's not much of a deal, but still a giant step forward from 10 minutes ago, when we had no guide at all. "Fine," says Peeta. "So help us," I say. "When we get to the arena, what's the best strategy at the cornucopia for someone? One thing at a time. In a few minutes, we'll be pulling into the station. You'll be put in the hands of your stylists. You're not going to like what they do to you. But no matter what it is, don't resist," says Haymitch. "But," I begin. "No buts. Don't resist," says Haymitch. He takes the bottle of spirits from the table and leaves the car. As the door swings shut behind him, the car goes dark. There are still a few lights inside, but outside it's as if night has fallen again. I realize we must be in the tunnel that runs up through the mountains into the capital. The mountains form a natural barrier between the capital and the eastern districts. It is almost impossible to enter from the east, except through the tunnels. This geographical advantage was a major factor in the districts losing the war that led to my being a tribute today. Since the rebels had to scale the mountains, they were easy targets for the capital's air forces.
Peeta Mellark is unpredictable and exceedingly manipulative, not in a negative way, but in a world-weary one. He has the ability to make you see a perspective that he paints as true. Even when the facts tell you something might be off, you believe him, because why doubt someone who never gives you a reason to question their intentions? That made him, in my opinion, the most dangerous person in that arena. Whether you are a Capital viewer or a fellow tribute, he disorients you, and since you can't trust what you're seeing, you lean toward trusting him. Katniss, as suspicious as she is, and as excellent as she was at reading people, could not break that spell. Even when she had figured him out, she could not resist it. Gale never could convince Katniss of anything, not his love, not her attention, not even his own innocence in Book 3. Peeta pushed her to act and change without her even noticing it. He has always had her attention, and in my opinion, was going to be an undeniable force in her life, whether she saw it coming or not.
Peeta Mellark and I stand in silence as the train speeds along. The tunnel goes on, and I think of the tons of rock separating me from the sky, and my chest tightens. I hate being encased in stone this way. It reminds me of the mines and my father, trapped, unable to reach sunlight, buried forever in the darkness. The train finally begins to slow, and suddenly bright light floods the compartment. We can't help it. Both Peeta and I run to the window to see what we've only seen on television: the capital, the ruling city of Panem. The cameras haven't lied about its grandeur. If anything, they have not quite captured the magnificence of the glistening buildings in a rainbow of hues that tower into the air, the shiny cars that roll down the wide paved streets, the oddly dressed people with bizarre hair and painted faces who have never missed a meal. All the colors seem artificial, the pinks too deep, the greens too bright, the yellows painful to the eyes, like the flat round discs of hard candy we can never afford to buy at the tiny sweet shop in District 12. The people begin to point at us eagerly as they recognize a tribute train rolling into the city. I step away from the window, sickened by their excitement, knowing they can't wait to watch us die. But Peeta holds his ground, actually waving and smiling at the gawking crowd. He only stops when the train pulls into the station, blocking us from their view. He sees me staring at him and shrugs. "Who knows," he says, "one of them may be rich." I have misjudged him. I think of his actions since the reaping began, the friendly squeeze of my hand, his father showing up with the cookies and promising to feed Prim. Did Peeta put him up to that? His tears at the station, volunteering to wash Haymitch, but then challenging him this morning when apparently the nice guy approach had failed, and now the waving at the window, already trying to win the crowd. All of the pieces are still fitting together, but I sense he has a plan forming. He hasn't accepted his death. He is already fighting hard to stay alive, which also means that kind Peeta Mellark, the boy who gave me the bread, is fighting hard to kill me.
That's a wrap. What did you guys think? Was Peeta a wild card, or was his attachment to Katniss purely luck of the draw? I think a bit of both. His being sent to the games was by chance, but to me, nothing he did once he got there was by accident. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to use the link in the description to get your personal copy of Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games.